So lads, we're still keeping up to it. We're still keeping up to the name of the channel by talking a little bit about basketball every single day. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the New York Knicks. I know Game 3 of the NBA Finals is, well, tomorrow when I'm recording this. I know it is going to be, by the time this video is up, it will be today. So this video is going up the day of Game 3. But anyway, so in this video, we're going to be talking about the New York Knicks. Also, for speaking of, sorry, not Game 3, Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Speaking of Game 4, leave in the comments who you guys think is going to win. My prediction is probably the Lakers. Probably the Lakers, but man, I really hope the Heat win. Either way, though, the New York Knicks. No one really knows what the story is of the New York Knicks. Dude, they have assets, they don't have assets. Does anyone rate their assets? They traded Porzingis for cap space to sign 5 power forwards. Like, it's weird. It is weird, everything that has happened with the New York Knicks over the past decade. Just decade. Ever since that 2012-2013 season is just, I can't even describe what's happened. From Bargnani to Porzingis, to trading Porzingis, to the Melo and Phil Jackson situations, it's just been a disaster. To the picking Frank over Dennis Smith Jr. and crucifying your fans or the ownership for doing that for years, and then trading for Dennis Smith Jr. and complaining that he was playing over Frank a couple of years later. Man, this franchise is just absolutely dysfunctional. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 trade rumors for the New York Knicks and 5 off-season possibilities. Some of these are just ridiculous. But it's from the New York Post. And you never know, they might just be crazy enough to happen. So it seems to me that Victor Oladipo is their number 1 target. So it seems like 2 Dallas first round picks, Julius Randle, Dennis Smith Jr. or Frank Ntilikina. Like, they're gonna get rid of one of them. And you've either got Dennis Smith Jr., who's athletic, doesn't do anything else, or you've got Frank Ntilikina, who can't play offense. So, man, they're both not great options. And Dallas' first round picks in 2021, 2023 are gonna be like late first round picks. Is that really enough to get Victor Oladipo? I don't know. Maybe it's because he's going into his last year that the Pacers want to get rid of him. But man, like, those 2 first round picks aren't worth much. Unless, of course, Porzingis gets injured or Doncic gets injured. Julius Randle, Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina. I mean, give me Tim Hardaway Jr. and a pick over those guys from which Dallas are looking to trade for Oladipo. Is a hell of a lot better trades than that. So they're most definitely, they're probably gonna have to go with Kevin Knox in that trade. With Kevin Knox at a sophomore slump. But I just never really get that one. I just never really got this Victor Oladipo one, even though he is probably their main target. Chris Paul? Why would you? Like, you could probably get, like, one, he doesn't get OKC the young assets that they need. 2, like, Chris Paul, why would he want to rebuild in New York rather than rebuild in OKC? Like, surely if Chris Paul was to be traded to the Knicks, surely it would be along the lines of, or surely if he gets traded, it'll be to somebody that's one piece away, like the Boston Celtics or something. No, the salaries, that wouldn't work out for Boston, would it? Gordon Hayward and Oladipo, or say maybe not Gordon Hayward and Oladipo, maybe Gordon Hayward and Kemba Walker for Chris Paul and someone else. But yeah, I just don't see that happening. I really don't see that happening. It says here maybe Paul ignites a New York Knicks rebuild. But, like, is that not the worst thing that can happen? Is to try quick fix a rebuild? It's not like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who'd made the playoffs every single year. The New York Knicks have not made the NBA playoffs since 2013. Like, it will be 8 years, and it's very unlikely to make the NBA playoffs next year. I just don't get this one. There's less sustainability. Paul's Rose's favorite former client. Like, Is that one of the New York Knicks front office guys? Either way, like, Joel Embiid. How? He can make a scary shot blocking center or tandem with Mitchell Robinson. I agree, but they're not getting Embiid without giving him Mitchell Robinson. And like, I understand teams looking for Embiid, but no, not this season. Maybe around the trade deadline. Maybe around, it won't happen in the offseason. No way the Sixers are trading either Simmons or Embiid until at least close to trade deadline. Doc Rivers will give it a go. Or is it? It's Glenn Rivers now. He was saying not to call him Doc anymore. So, good old Glenn is gonna give it a shot anyway. But like, what the hell do they have to offer? The Knicks have 2 2021 first rounders to deal. One of them's the Mavs. One of them is the Mavs first round pick. It's like gonna be like the 25th pick. But like no. Do they really think does the 2021 draft project to be that good? Like 2020's bad. 2021 draft project to be this unbelievable draft. And why would the Sixers give up Embiid for picks? Like, surely if the Sixers are gonna give up Embiid, it'll be for a fit better with Simmons and in a win now mode. They're not gonna try rebuild. This is just dumb. It's just dumb. Paul George. Okay. Yet another Paul George trade rumor. This is another Paul George trade rumor. And you know what? I'm telling you, if they can find a way of getting Paul George, like, the Knicks desperately need one since they gave one to the Clippers to play off the bench. I mean, Kevin, if the New York Knicks can trade RJ Barrett, who, let's be real, is highly unlikely he ever becomes Paul George. And I think RJ Barrett's going to be good. But I mean, Paul George is a perennial all-star, arguably a top 10 player in the NBA. Will RJ Barrett ever be that? No. I think Mitchell Robinson might be a little bit too important for the team. But like, no. You have, like, if they can somehow offer Kevin Knox and RJ Barrett and the Clippers take it, you do that in a heartbeat, New York. You do that in a heartbeat. Kevin Knox is not that good. RJ Barrett will be very good. I'm telling you, RJ Barrett, a bad rookie year. He will be bad rookie year based on how he was projected to be. I thought he was going to be rookie of the year. He's going to be really good. But he will unlikely be better at any stage in his career than Paul George is right now. If they can get Paul George and work around a couple of trades to get them a good point guard, Paul George, a decent point guard, and Mitchell Robinson, as well as some decent role players, that's a playoff team. That is a playoff team. Not a championship team, but at this stage, I think the Knicks just being competent is kind of like all you can expect. So, man, if the Clippers are dumb enough to take this trade, you'd do it in a heartbeat. You would do it in a heartbeat. It could trade the New York. It could change the whole landscape of the Knicks. I think the Chris Paul one is unlikely to happen. This Embiid one won't happen. But Paul George, man, the Clippers, like, they'll be getting him for pennies on the dollar. Like, the Clippers just seem to want to get rid of Paul George. Karl Anthony Towns. Holy moly. If the Knicks hire Jason Kidd, move would have more traction. Yeah, like, Thibodeau and Cat didn't get along. And, well, we don't know if Thibodeau and Cat didn't get along. Jimmy Butler just didn't get along with anyone in New York. Jimmy Butler and Tibbs got along in Chicago, didn't get along in, not New York, in Minnesota. But, like, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is not going to be demand a trade to New York. He might demand a trade, not to New York. Like, Karl Anthony Towns is basically playing with his best friend. He's playing with D'Angelo Russell. If he could, the only way I could see him forcing a move out is if he could find a way to get the Phoenix to play with Devin Booker. Like, this is just absolutely ludicrous. And who do they even have? It just says here, the move could have more traction. It doesn't even give a potential, do they? The Wolves have the number 1 pick. The Knicks could need to stockpile Minnesota more draft picks, land Randall. I mean, you could go with, like, RJ Barrett, the number 8 pick, and something else, and Randall or something to make to make up the salary. And if the Knicks really wanted, or if the Timberwolves really wanted James Wiseman, maybe. But like, man, this is not a realistic trade. Of all these trades, the Oladipo one might happen. They might overspend on an Oladipo, which could be a bad trade. It could be a good trade, could be a bad trade for New York. But this Paul George trade, for me, has a lot of intrigue because, man, I'm saying it right now. There's a reason why I'm going to be constantly talking about Paul George. Is I genuinely think the Clippers are going to be fleeced. I think that rather than sticking it out one more year, because Paul George, he was inconsistent, and he's always inconsistent in the playoffs, but you know what? His second year in OKC, he was a hell of a lot better than his first year, including in the playoffs. I think instead of sticking it out, the Clippers are just going to try to get something back for him. And I can see them giving him away. I can see the Clippers getting fleeced more than they were fleeced in the first trade for Paul George. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. The New York Knicks. A disaster of a franchise. People going into the offseason with a lot of big names. Last year we had Kevin Durant. Last year there was talk Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard. Those type of people to New York. This year, people talking about Paul George, Karl Anthony Towns. What is the most likely thing that happens in New York? They probably trade up half their roster to go to number 1 in the draft and take LaMelo Ball. That is my prediction. But anyway, yeah, that is pretty much it. That's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.